No one noticed the house on Parnell Road. Not really. It stood modestly between a weathered church and a disused gas station. Just another shadow in the quiet of Auckland's suburbs. But it was within that house, rented by a quiet man named Kamal Reddy, that 2 lives would be snuffed out, buried under soil and silence for nearly a decade. It began, as these things often do, with a stranger knocking on the wrong door, or perhaps the right one, if fate is to be blamed. Pakeeza Yousuf arrived with hope in her eyes and a child in her arms. She needed a place to stay. Her husband, unsure and uncertain, accompanied her. Kamal, with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, offered them a space in his house. Perhaps he already knew what he wanted. Perhaps the tragedy was already in motion the moment their luggage crossed his threshold. At first, they were just tenants. A woman with roots tangled in India and Fiji, a man looking for work, and a child too young to understand the tension that would soon build in every corner of that house. But Kamal wasn't just a landlord. He became something else, first a friend, then something more dangerous. His interest in Pakeeza grew like mold on damp wood, slowly, quietly, destructively. As their interactions deepened, so did the rift between Pakeeza and her husband. Jealousy flared. Fights erupted. Kamal was no longer a bystander. He was now involved, clashing openly with the husband. One night, things went too far. There was an altercation, and police were called. But neither Pakeeza nor her husband appeared in court. The charges vanished like so many other warnings before a disaster. Eventually, the inevitable happened. The husband was gone. Pakeeza and her daughter, little Zubairia, stayed, with Kamal, alone. For a while, it looked like peace, but peace is fragile in the hands of a man like Kamal Reddy. The drinking started, then the beatings. The walls of the house saw everything, but Pakeeza had burned her bridges. Her family, outraged by her divorce, had disowned her. There was nowhere left to go, and so she stayed. And she suffered. But even suffering has a voice. One day, she called her mother. She spoke of Kamal's violence, of the fear etched into her daily life. Her mother listened, and then, like so many others, turned away. Perhaps out of helplessness, perhaps out of shame. But that silence would echo for years. Then nothing. No calls, no messages. A year passed. When Pakeeza's mother finally called back, no one answered. It was Kamal who eventually responded. His voice was calm, certain. She left, he said, took the child and ran off to Australia with another man. But Australia knew no such woman. Not the authorities, not her relatives there, not even the air whispered her name. And yet, for years, no one asked the question that mattered. Where was her body? By 2013, Pakeeza and Zubairia had been missing for nearly 7 years. No official trace, no voice crying for justice. But then, her mother filed a police report. It was a formality born of desperation. No one expected much. After all, Kamal's story had stayed consistent. He wasn't hiding, he wasn't running. He lived as if nothing had happened. But detectives, those patient excavators of lies, noticed a flaw. If Pakeeza had left, why were her bank accounts still active in New Zealand? Who was using her money? The answer was simple. Kamal. And suddenly, a question emerged like a scream from the silence. What was Kamal Reddy hiding? New Zealand police began an operation so elaborate, so psychologically manipulative, that it blurred the line between truth and performance. They called it Mr. Big. Officers went undercover as hardened criminals. A fake gang, a fake world. But the greed they exploited in Kamal Reddy was real. They approached him, befriended him, offered him money, jobs, respect. Slowly, they pulled him in, and he came willingly, like a moth dancing toward a flame. He thought they were criminals. He thought he'd found his tribe. So when they asked him to rob a man, he did. When they paid him in thousands, he smiled. And when they said their boss needed to meet him, he dressed his best and obeyed. The meeting was staged. A test, they said. One final step before he could be trusted. But to gain their confidence, he had to tell them everything, every crime. Kamal confessed. In chilling detail, he spoke of a woman and a child, of 2006, of murder, of a bridge, of bones buried beneath gravel and steel, and the officers, still in character, played along. They needed proof. "Show us," they said. "We'll help you erase the evidence." He took them there. Under the bridge they dug, and they found the dead. Pakeeza, Zubairia, just bones now, fragile, silent. But they told a story Kamal could no longer hide. Still, he tried. When confronted officially, Kamal blamed an imaginary man, Smith. A lover, he claimed, of Pakeeza's, a ghostly figure of convenience. But DNA and forensics laughed at the lie. He was charged, and as police delved deeper, they discovered Kamal hadn't acted alone in the aftermath. His uncle, Baal Naidu, had advised him on how to bury the bodies. The old man was arrested too, but could justice ever be enough to silence the horror? As the courtroom prepared for its verdict, one last act remained. In April 2016, the trial began. Kamal Reddy sat in silence as his crimes were paraded before the court. Pakeeza's life, her daughter's breath, reduced to evidence tags and testimony. But the truth refused to be ignored. He had strangled Pakeeza with an iron cord. He had smothered a 3-year-old girl with a pillow, and he had done it because they were inconvenient, because there was a new woman in his life, because they were disposable. The jury didn't take long. On May 12, 2016, Kamal Reddy was found guilty. On June 21st, he was sentenced to life, 21 years without parole. Baal Naidu, for his part in hiding the bodies, received 12 months. He served his time. He walked free. Kamal did not. He appealed, of course, in 2019, in 2020, but the courts, like the dead, were unmoved. He remains, to this day, a prisoner, not just of bars, but of the story he wrote in blood. And yet, is that the end? Perhaps not. For what does it say about a society where a woman can vanish for 7 years before anyone truly asks where she went? What does it say about silence? What does it say about us?